Good evening, everyone. This book for me, Bangalore Through the Centuries, has been a labor of love. And I would like to start off with a short introduction by uh, Ameena. Ameena is the daughter of Fazlul Hassan, the original author of the book. And Ameena will now tell us a little bit about how this book came to be.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I'm extremely happy I've come here. Thank you so much for inviting me on this talk. Actually, I'm being given credit for something which I have not done. The work was done by my father, and now Naresh is doing the remaining work. I was just somehow a person who was there in the right time, at the right circumstance, perhaps. Incidentally, I was instrumental in the proofreading of the original version, so perhaps that's why I am remembered and I am being called for various gatherings. Well, my father was not a historian at all. Not a historian at all in the true sense. That means he didn't major in history as a subject or anything like that. He was administrator. He retired as administrative officer in the Corporation of City of Bangalore, and ultimately he did some other work, but this book was his magnum opus. How come a person in the administrative side was attached to this history thing is, when my father was very young, he had he was playing around a stone, a donation stone, which was there near in one of his relatives' mango grove that is called Mavina Tota. And being a young boy, he was very intrigued by what it said. And he started studying it. And the study gradually developed. And that was the foundation stone. And then as he studied, his interest got more and more. And he searched for relative material wherever he could find it. And then he published various articles in newspapers and magazines, and these were the stepping stones, which finally led to his magnum opus, Bangalore Through the Centuries. And that book, as they say, is a compilation of the history of Bangalore, a comprehensive study till then, because till then, all the material available on the history of Bangalore was in small gazetteers or small articles. But this book had it comprehensively. And now, after 53 years of publishing, the book was exhausted long back. Unfortunately, we couldn't republish it. Mr. Naresh Narasimhan came into the picture and he wanted to revise it. See, actually, I am a student of literature, and I feel an author or a poet is great when his work is interpreted in later times. That means what Basavana wrote in his Vachanas centuries ago, you can interpret it in various ways now, and that will be relevant. What my father wrote was his compilation, his idea of history. But the other day in Bowring Institute, when Naresh showed me how many people from other fields referred to my father's book, I was simply stunned, actually, surprised, pleasantly surprised. And then I learned that there are various ways you can learn history. So I'm extremely glad and proud to be of that family wherein my father did something good. And now Naresh is taking it to a different level altogether. Chalo, we are very happy. I know you are waiting for something else. And even I am eagerly waiting to hear what Naresh has to say, because I'm sure he's going to show me some other phase of the book. And I'm really all eyes and ears to hear it. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to introduce the book.
Thank you, Ameena, for those kind words. I'm going to show a small presentation. So if you'd like to see it, maybe better to sit there. And we can come back on stage in the end. Thank you. How old is Bangalore today? Anybody? How many of you from Bangalore in the audience? Everybody. So how old? We have a specific date, a year at least. I won't say a date, a month and a year when Bangalore was set up. How old is it? 500? Not bad. Anybody else? No, that's not true. No. Okay, here's the clue. It's older than Chennai, it's older than Bombay, and it's older than Calcutta. Perfect. Don't Google it. Sorry. Okay, 486 birthday finish. And in 2037, we will do 500 years. Few cities in the world. The only cities older than Bangalore in India are Jaipur and Delhi and Varanasi. Varanasi is twice as old as everything put together, and again twice as old. Nobody knows how old Varanasi is. So I'm an architect I'm not a professional author, I'm an architect and an urban designer. And Bangalore has been a subject of great interest to me ever since I was a kid. I've been collecting articles, photographs, memorabilia. I probably have a maximum amount of information on the city of any person in the whole city today. And I started observing a strange thing that there are about 46 books written in English on Bangalore, about 25 books in Kannada, and there's even one in Marathi. Very few people know that. And every single book written after 1970, after this book by Mr. Hassan, which is Bangalore Through the Centuries, refers to this as the source material. No, that's so. I said, what? And I've had this book since 1979. It was published in 1970. I found it in a bookshop many years ago, and and every time I read other books and I see the glossary, it was referring to this book. So after a big detective search, which ended in a strange way, and my classmate and good friend, the theatre actor Prakash Belavadi, I was sitting in his house one evening and saying, "Yaar ee book na, yaar idu Fazlul Hasan." Then I can't find him at all. Where is he disappeared? He said, "No, his son lives next door." I said, "This is serendipity of the highest order." He actually lived 3 houses away. Ameena and all of them grew up 3 houses away. And Mr. Hassan had passed away some time ago, but his 3 children were there, and we made a meeting with them, and they were initially interested. It took some time to build a trust because they hold this memory of their father's book very dearly. And then COVID came in between, and then after COVID, we published this book. And I'm glad to say the first print run of 2,000 copies, 1,920 are sold in 1 week. And not to diss any publishing house, but I have now realized that publishing is also can be democratized and can actually be done by yourself. Because Bangalore book, I don't know how much of interest it'll have in a national or global distribution. So I decided to publish it myself. And I found actually it's quite easy to do it. So, sorry, Sridhar, but whatever. So let me get on to it. So, this is the oldest known painting of Bangalore. And can anybody tell? So, that's the original Kempegowda Tower on the Lalbagh Rock. That's what it looked like. It doesn't look like that now. And in the distance, if you can see the haze, this pointer doesn't work for some reason. You can see the Bangalore Fort, and in even smaller haze, you can see Nandi Hills. And the greenery in front is the Cypress Garden, which is now Lalbagh. And this painting is done in 1791, when the British just after the Second Mysore War. Right? So, what is the etymology of the word Bangalore? Where does it come from? Right? Some theories say that it could be from Bengaluru, which is the original name of the honge mara. The most common tree in the whole of the city is the honge mara, which is in Hale Kannada it is called Benga. And that's the plant, and the small white or yellow flowers. It comes in 2 variations. One more could be this is the, what do you call it, the international legend, because the same legend happens in 6 other cities across the world about the king having lost his way and some old woman gave him beans or something. And Robert Bruce has the same story with some woman in Scotland. So the same urban legend. And this is a complete falsehood, but it sounds like a good story, so let's keep it. Right? The third is it could also, Bangalore is sitting on a bed of white granite, Bilikal it is called in Kannada, which means white stone. And it could also be from there because, and you see this funny rock formation, this is how they cut it. On a rock, they burn firewood, and because of the heat doesn't transfer easily, the rock separates. And then that's why you get these steps on it. Right? And Bangalore, technically, even today, raw granite is cheaper than brick. So it's the only city in the world, I think, which can claim that. But most probably, the name comes, like all of us listen to our wives, when Mr. Kempegowda, the first, got married. His wife came from Hale, Bengaluru. Nobody knows why that was called that. And which is now Sahakar Nagar. Right? If some of you stay there. And the hamlet is still there, about 10 houses. And now everybody's forgotten it, but that was called Hale, Bengaluru. And he probably named the new settlement after his, because his wife told him to, probably. And, which is, right? This is the oldest known word. Many people, and it's a very old city from its founding by Kempegowda, but its history goes back 10 centuries before that. It was a place of settlement even during the Ganga dynasty, which ruled from about the 5th to the 9th centuries. And this is a Ganga dynasty temple in Begur. On the way to Electronic City, sometimes you should take a right turn. There's a 11th century temple there. And what is written in blue is Hale Kannada, and it says, in the Battle of Bangalore, a guy lost his life. One of the soldiers lost his life. And it's an inscription stone, and that's the first place it appears. So the chronology of Bangalore goes like this. This is Ganga dynasty, and what I've done now is tell you where, and it's quite surprising to see that the current borders of Karnataka follow the borders of the ancient kingdoms. You can see the Gangas, you can see the Kadambas, and this is the 11th century temple in Begur, in very good condition actually. They've renovated it now. It's in good shape. And in this map, you don't see Bangalore at all. It's not mentioned. It's not an important place. Right? Then it goes to the Chola dynasty. The oldest Hindu temple in Bangalore is in Domlur, called the Chokkanatha, built by Rajendra Chola II. And that is the Tamil inscription with, see what these guys, the great thing that the ancients did, that when they wrote an inscription, we can date it almost to the day. Do you know why? Because they begin the inscription by saying, no, they'll never say, when this star is ascendant in this constellation. Rohini is rising in some constellation, and that star, that constellation never repeats. So you can date an inscription precisely. Almost within a month of when it happened. So you'll find that the current borders of Karnataka also roughly how the kingdom is slowly changing. And Chola left us 3 things in Bangalore. They left us Madiwala, they left us Dombalur, which is Domlur, and they left us Yelahanka, which was Ilai Pakam, of the northernmost reach. You can see the Chola Empire and the Pandya Empire coming. Right? And then the Hoysala dynasty comes in from 1117 to about 1343. And this is the ASI, the National Highways Authority, has brutally murdered this church on the way to the airport. And touching this monument is, of all things, a decathlon. Right? And this is the unbelievable. And sometimes I think Indians, we have too much history. We are bored of it. And we only want shiny objects now. And this beautiful thing is on the way to the airport. It's a stone fort built by Vishnuvardhana and now abandoned. And the lady who owned it was murdered. And there is because she tried to sell it, and the whole thing is stuck like this. It's in a ruin. Right? Yeah, on the way, Chikkajala. On the way to the airport, halfway. And this is where we come in. And you can see this is the Vijayanagar Empire. And you can see right in the beginning, Kempegowda and the Bangalore, Magadi comes first, because that was his capital. From Yelahanka was his father's capital. Magadi was his second, and Bangalore, he comes and starts this city. And this temple is built by him, and it's in Yelahanka village, which nobody goes to. Right? I asked everybody in Srishti once, there's a village called Yelahanka? He said, yeah, we don't know. Exactly like 300 meters or 400 meters away. But nobody goes. Right? So, and Kempegowda did one strange thing. He built these watchtowers, what I showed in the beginning. There are 7 of them originally, but 4 exist today. The one on the left is an ancient photograph from Alsur Lake, and now that's controlled by the army. And it's all the 4 towers, by the way, as part of the unboxing Bangalore Habba are nicely lit up. So if any of you are passing by, please see it. Right? And this was the origin. And Bangalore never started as a village which grew into a town. It always was imagined as a town which grew into a city. Right? So Kempegowda at that time he was a feudatory of the Vijayanagar kings, the Achyutaraya, and he created this town. And Bangalore is one of those few cities in the world exactly in the center there. That street going in the middle is called Avenue Road. The street going this way is called Dodpet Main Road, and the center there is actually the exact start point of Bangalore. And he laid 4 roads, north, south, east, and west. And all these are visible today. The dark patch you see on top is Kempegowda Road. The bottom, what you see there, the open area is City Market. So this area dates from about 500 years ago. And then you also see the imagination of these people. There is an entire network of... Bangalore is the largest city in the world not situated next to a natural resource. There's no river, there's no sea, there's no mountain. Actually, there's no nothing. They're sitting on top of a mountain ridge and sloping away. There's no reason it should flood, but it still does. And we'll come to that in another presentation. Right? It's all slopes away, right? And it's a crossing of trade routes. And the city also symbolizes the crossing of trade routes. And there were more than 26 professions brought into the town. And because it had no natural barriers, he built these towers. And the ancients had figured out at that time that by damming shallow areas, they would create these tanks. There are no lakes in Bangalore, they're all tanks. And one tank would overflow into the other. But between each tank, there would be a marsh. So because it had no natural barriers, you could be invaded easily. By building this marsh system, they did a double whammy. One, they got water, and two, it also served as a defense mechanism because no ox cart can cross in a marsh. So you're only allowed to come into the city in 4 ways. And all 4 places had these, you can see those watchtowers. Alsur, Lalbagh, Kempampudi, and Mekri Circle. And all the towers still exist till today.
So is there any truth to the myth that...
I'll answer after this, please, okay? So this is the rough timeline of the city, okay? Then the Wadayar dynasty takes over and then builds this fort, which doesn't exist anymore. It's quite a handsome little fort, which was there, and the British broke it and built town hall with it. And you can see that big square in the middle, that is now Bangalore Medical College, and opposite that is Tipu Sultan's palace. Tipu Sultan built a palace there later, right? This is what Bangalore looked like at the time of Hyder Ali. He got a French architect. I'm an architect, we all get annoyed by developers bringing foreign architects, but apparently it's been a long custom to bring foreigners to tell us what to do. But the French were masters of... See, this was the exact point when cannon was just getting into. Forts became redundant the moment cannon was invented, because you could then blast it with cannon and break the wall. As long as you're doing bow and arrows and boiling oil, you needed forts, right? And they built it in the French style called a bâtiment, and you can see a lower level fort and a higher level fort, and the dome on the front is the dome of the Kiladar. The Kila is the fort, right? The Kiladar was the man who made the fort. That tomb still exists till today, and he's actually revered, and he gets a chadar on his birthday and on special holidays. Right. But to understand the scale in this internet age when everything is a Zoom call away, to understand the size of the empire of Tipu Sultan, who became who expanded what we know as territory, and see the size of it, almost from the Palakkad Gap and all the way to Kurnool. And if you lay it on current, I even wonder how they used to send messages from one end to the other. Right? How do you respond? And it's difficult to understand how governance was done. But see the size of the empire he controlled. Almost all of South India. This was the fort, which was originally a mud fort. It doesn't exist today. It had a moat, and it was rebuilt in stone. And in 1799, in the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, Tipu Sultan was killed. And this is the famous painting of his body he was killed by a random soldier. Nobody knows. And his body was discovered. And you can see his teacher behind him. They're all shocked by the That is Tipu Sultan on the famous painting. Right? And then the British decide there are too many mosquitoes in Mysore. Nobody told them about Bangalore, I think. They said, okay, let's move to Bangalore from Srirangapattam. That was the official reason. And first they chose Chennapatna, but then John Blackiston, after whom Blackpully is named in the city, doesn't exist anymore. He created this Bangalore in a two-way situation. The area inside the pink line is the cantonment. The area outside the pink line was the old city. This is also a very, if I may call it a subaltern map, because till such point the Bangalore comes in the middle. Suddenly when the British come, the native city goes to the edge of the map. It's not important anymore. The center, that what you see in the middle, the white patch, is MG Road and Parade Grounds. That becomes the center. And Raj Bhavan. Right? This is what the cantonment looked like around the turn of the century. You can see St. Mary's Church, hazy spire in the back, mostly low-rise. This is somewhere from near St. John's Road, looking Cleveland, this thing. And so, based on all this, in a pre-era internet time, where did Mr. Hassan get his information from? It's got something like 200 plus bibliographical research citations. I think he spent all his weekends, probably Ameena can bear me out, probably all his weekends he spent doing this only. He was the admin officer of the BBMP, as the BMC as it was called at that time. And here's the book itself has got a curiously administrative approach to it. And I'll show you why. Okay. So he pulled out administrative accounts, all the data. The British used to produce tons of documents. The one thing the British are great at is documentation. They make maps, draw everything, write down everything. Right? He pulled out stuff from here. And also, you can't read it, but this was after the big plague in the late 19th century. This Fraser town and Cleveland town were laid out, as well as Chamarajpet and Baswangudi, with sanitation. That is, they had a conservancy lane in the back. The toilets were separated from the house. There was no open sewer running anywhere. And Plague-Proof Planning in South India is the book written by Stephens, and after whom Stephens Road in Fraser Town is named. And he was the one who created that area. Right? And also the personal accounts. It's quite a nasty little personal account. I don't know whether you can read it, but Bowring's opinion of the rest of us. Not very flattering, I must say. So, okay. All right. And also you find books written in Maharashtra, because there was a period between the Bahmani kings. I'm just speeding it up because I have half an hour. I can talk about this story of Bangalore for some 2 hours I need really. But Shivaji Maharaj actually was brought here at the age of 11, got married in the Kadu Malleshwara temple in Malleshwaram, and then went back to Maharashtra. Right? So there is a, what do you call it? He was brought here by his father. His father was the Jagir head of the Bahmani sultans who was ruling this place at one time. Right? And he also says, great, look at this, the description is almost from 1788. It's a great place with an array of shops displaying costly goods. I don't know whether he went to UB City Mall or something. So, plenty of peacocks. No, look, see the description of the city. It's quite a beautiful little, and must have been a very pleasant place even at that time, right? And that's what the city looked like, the Avenue Road. And he says everybody is well off, everybody is chilled out, everybody is having a good time. And I hope that continues if we can do something about the traffic. Also, right? So various people have written about this book. As I told you, many people have written about this book. And there are mapped histories, like I pointed out earlier. There are spatial histories written by Annaswamy Mudaliar, which reimagines the Pete as and all the 7 gates of the city and what trades were where, what were they doing. The festivals of the city interpreted by Smriti, or the Karaga festival, which is a 500-year-old festival celebrated every year, even today, strangely with the goddess Draupadi as the main deity. Right? And everybody becomes her Pandava. Right? And also many current historians have written about it. Janaki has written about it from a social history, anthropological point of view. There are many essays. Network City was written by Fitzman, sorry, about the rise of the IT industry. So there's a continuous documentation. But every single book refers to Mr. Hassan's book. And you also people who are recreating histories using 3D technologies, and the same stone that you saw is now a LiDAR scan. And you can actually buy it as a small replica for your home. Yeah, I got it. Done. We also have a Facebook group called Bygone Bangalore. Please join it. We have more than 50,000 pictures of the city. Almost every picture about the city is here. Right? It's a Facebook group. Paul Fernandez, who spoke earlier this morning, had done a beautiful series of paintings. A lot of these are blown up and put in the T2 terminal also now as part of the history of the city. And that's what the image of Bangalore was, one laid-back guy on a planter's chair, chipping gin and tonic and doing nothing much. No? That's what it was. But it's also a city of manufacturing. Kirloskar Electric, which is now Orion Mall, right? Again, one of my projects, but it was a beautiful factory at that time called Kirloskar Project. Things have to give way to the new. Right? And also the city of science and technology. Every single smart idea in India has its origin in Bangalore. Even today, whether it's the national education policy or whether it is Aadhaar card or whether it is aerospace research, everything starts here. This building is just being demolished last week. It's the first wind tunnel built in India. Right? And any of you recognize these guys? They're posing on top of the first computer they bought. Mr. Murthy once told me it was slightly more powerful than a small handheld calculator. And you can see all of them standing there. And they are the ones who made the next big change of the city. Right? And then how do you situate BTC within the historiography of the city? BTC is my book, The Bangalore Through the Centuries. Mr. Hassan says he tried to collect stuff about Bangalore. He says, nobody has put it together in one place. And he says, that's why I'm publishing it. That was the original edition. And this is the launch function with the governor, Mr. Dharmavira. And that's Mr. Hassan on the extreme right giving his opening oration in 1970. And as I said, he was an administrator. And his approach also was that was the cantonment area and that was the city area. So everything is neatly divided, classified properly. He always talks like that. It's a great book to read. Okay? Can you play volume? This is an old film. Volume. People talk about outsiders coming into Bangalore, the locals being replaced. This movie is made in 1974. Let's see what happens. This was more popular than auto rickshaws those days, the Tonga. Okay. Bangalore also, this movie, the clip is longer, but I'm run out of time. You can see it later. He talks about how cosmopolitan Bangalore was at that time. And Bangalore's always been a cosmopolitan city. It's not just the last 20 years. It also became a city of manufacturing. And then it also becomes a city of gardens, that's Lal Bagh. And then Mr. Hassan says that, slowly local guys took over power. Bangalore is that big now. That was the original corporation. And the king also says, please make this city a great city. And then once you look past the book, this was the only person after whom 4 things are named in the city. He brought electricity to Bangalore, he brought modern town planning to Bangalore, and and the library, public library is named after him. Right? And modern Bangalore, Chamarajpeta, all that was created by him. That was the original aerial view of city market in 1942. I don't know who took it, but beautiful picture. And what you see here, the little rod in front, shadow there, that is the first electric light in India. No longer exists there, but the pole is still there. Right? And that was Baswangudi, modeled after the Union Jack, the flag, the British flag. Still a great area, perfect, very great foresight even those days. And Diwan Vishwesharaya and Diwan Mirza Ismail contributed a lot to the city. And Jayanagar, you can see the clean grids there. This was Jayanagar shopping complex, beautiful public space when it opened, quite bad shape now. And the great music, great weather that we have. This is Kaban Park bandstand with concerts. And Singapore actually thought Bangalore could be a model for Singapore at that time. There is a photograph in the BBMP showing that they've come to check us out and all. Great. Okay, so I'd like to end here by saying that city is a palimpsest, it's a scroll, and we all have to decide, particularly the younger generation, what you're going to write. And I'd like to end here by saying, if you want a new idea, read an old book. Thank you.